Another reason why we are further away than ever from World War III is because Russia and China are terrified by how the US conducted their attack. Remember, while Iran has some radar left, Russia and China have a great deal of them, and none of those radars were able to pick up 7 American B-2 bombers that flew undetected for 18 hours, refueling in midair, and then they launched an assault successfully against a hardened, well-fortified target. This means for all of Russia and China's bluster, if the United States wanted to go into those countries and drop a very powerful bomb, they would be able to do it undetected, uninterrupted. Iran did not even have a chance to launch any fighter jets because they had no idea that these bombers even went into Iranian airspace. There were also 125 other U.S. military aircraft, and there were American submarines that actually launched Tomahawk missiles to also soften up the targets. Quoting from the Reuters article, the Iranians were unable to get off a single round, meaning bullet, at the American aircraft, and were caught completely flat-footed. And remember, Iran's radar systems were primarily Russian, which is another humiliating loss of military prestige for Russia. I made a post the other day about how Russia is losing military contracts left and right because their air defense systems and overall gear is subpar compared to what the West makes. You should watch it. The name of this operation was Midnight Hammer, and it was the world's largest B-2 strike in history. I highly suggest you look at all of the military assets used in this operation. You should pause to read this or just go to the original site because it's quite impressive. And to all the people from countries with third or fourth rate militaries who were making fun of our American soldiers who couldn't march well, it's true, we don't march well because we actually do our job working with military equipment instead of trying to look all parade fancy for our people. But even though Russia and China are terrified of what America is capable of, that doesn't mean there won't be any recourse from Iran. A few hours ago, it came out that Iran-backed militias were gearing up to target American bases in Iraq and possibly Syria. And now we're hearing reports that 1,300 pounds or 600 kilograms of 60% enriched uranium, which is primarily used for nuclear weapons, was somehow shifted from the Fordo site. But I'm very skeptical about that claim for a few reasons. One, Iran may not want to look like they've been completely cooked, so they're trying to save face. But if this is true, then this is the fault of Iran's opponent, because Iran's opponent had sleeper cells that so heavily infiltrated the Iranian military, they would have known that this material was going to be moved. And if they actually allowed it to happen or didn't destroy it at another location, that's because they want to drag America further into this conflict, which is a mistake. Right now, there is no official declaration of war against Iran by the United States, because technically only Congress has the power to do that. America did the one thing that Iran's opponent could not do. We shouldn't have any more of a role in this war, unless, of course, Iran seeks to escalate against the United States and try to fire on American military personnel. And, of course, shooting down any ballistic missiles and drones that Iran fires into their enemy's territory. Now, another form of recourse that Iran has suggested 1 week before the U.S. attacked them was that Iran would wake up sleeper cells in the United States and other parts of the world to wreak havoc. And that is something we do have to keep our eyes out open for, because even though none of these countries stand a chance against us militarily, these lone wolf agents may be able to do a little bit of domestic damage just to scare the overall population. But I am not 100% sold on this sleeper cell idea, just because if any act of terror happens on U.S. soil and it could be traced back to Iran, then America's president will literally try to make Iran great again. A successful act of terror conducted against the United States would not make Trump look bad, even though it looks that way on paper. It would unite this country. It would galvanize us to completely obliterate Iran and any proxy group associated with it. The U.S. has been able to conduct a great deal of damage, and we are not even unified. Not one bit compared to where we were on September 12th. 2001. There's a reason why I said that day. But what about the multiple countries that are prepped to provide Iran nuclear weapons following these strikes? That was said by Russia's former president, Medvedev, who is just a Putin puppet. There has been no confirmed report of any country making such an offer, and if it did, that would be in violation of the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Agreement, and there would be a coalition of countries that would make such a sale impossible. If you're curious about Iran closing the Strait of Hormuz, that has not happened yet, and they don't really have the capacity to do it now that we're involved in that war. Oil's been trading roughly between $72 to $76 a barrel for the past few days. If the Strait of Hormuz was closed, it would be at, 85, 90, 100. But that'd be temporary because the U.S. would destroy the blockade or whatever mining effort was made. So if you add all of this together, the only country right now that seems to be operating from a position of strength is the United States. I know that offends a lot of people, but please give me specific details based on fact as to how I am wrong. I am the Geo Husar, and who thinks this war will be concluded within 2 weeks? Thanks for watching.